This region around the Great Lakes has been called the heartland. When it comes to agriculture, there's hardly an area in the world that compares.
Everybody, just hold on. I don't know what we're going to have here.
That's what brings the viewers back. That a boy.
Manage money, piling in.
Double digits higher.
So at this point, we're in kind of uncharted territory.
There's a lot of money on the sidelines.
So that was a crazy one.
Good morning, everybody. It's Monday, July 21st, and this is the AgYield War Room. Dan Dempsey, and I'll be moderating today's session. As always, if you get any questions or comments, please feel free to drop us a line in the chat area. We'll be sure to get to it during the show. Overnight markets here at September corn down 2.5 at 406. August soybeans are down 7 3/4 at 1020. And September Chicago wheat was up 2.5 at 548 3/4. No export sales announcements, so we'll jump right in here, guys. Hope everybody had a nice weekend. Obviously, it feels like right now rain is trumping heat. We do have, through the upper Midwest, what many are calling a heat dome that's going to take place here over the next 3 to 5 days. Heat indices over 100 degrees. But like I said in the earlier, there's still water. So we'll have to see how that shakes out. Over at the end of last week, we saw funds now are short beans, sold 24,000 last week. So it's their first short position in soybeans since early April. And we'll get crop ratings out here this afternoon to see how that looks as well. So I guess with that, Dustin, maybe share a few thoughts here to start the week, and we'll throw it around the room.
Yeah, it's interesting they just got short beans. That happened to be like right before we had that rebound. Those are always reported in the rears. So that's as of Tuesday's close. So we had a pretty decent sized rebound late there last week in beans. We also still have crush margins at $2.11 for November going into Friday. Oil share 50%. So I actually think that's it's interesting with the heat that we have projected and that 3 to 6 week forecast, which again, has been a pretty terrible long-term forecast this year. It seems like whenever we get to the 14-day, it's a lot wetter than what they're projecting. But right now, the 3 to 6 week forecast is still a bit dry. If there's any reason that we don't finish off well for beans, and we have this new RVO guidance and these larger crush margins, I think the market will take note of that. And with the funds being now short beans, and we're starting to cross above those major moving averages, there may be a little bit of a tailwind if that continues.
Sure. Jace, good rains through kind of the upper Midwest. I know through Northern Illinois, half inch to an inch totals kind of throughout. It had to look pretty good coming in this morning, I would guess. But what's your take here to start the week?
I just don't think the market can deny rains over the weekend. I mean, it looked like coverage level the last 3 days through the majority of Iowa and Illinois. We're on a good rebound. It seems like the pattern for this market is you sell off, earlier in the week, and then you kind of rebound because we're so cheap and so quote unquote oversold, that we kind of have a little bounce because of the risk of a couple days not being able to trade it and weather. And it seems like once we get the rain and it's verified and then the forecast stays wet, we're tending to sell off to start the week. Heat's a little bit of a wild card. We're gonna have hot nights here. I think the forecast is 5 degrees above normal minimum temperatures overnight, so it's gonna it's not ideal. But if you keep raining, it's just going to be really hard to be overly friendly. This size of this crop, or how should I say that stresses enough to overdo the rain. So no, crops look great. You hear about some pollination issues. Good luck with that one, I think, on being too friendly, that narrative. But we've said on the show so many times that it does take, it takes a lot of things going right to hit those really big numbers. So we got a lot to trade here. A lot of USDA reports, a lot of weather still to get through. So I think these moves, right, we're going to start trading, a record yield, and then, have a little bit of fear, and we'll have some bounces, and, kind of a bear market trade, right, where you just try to price it in, a really big crop, and there's going to be some movements, and there's going to be some selling opportunities. They're not great, and we have to navigate things that we've been talking about for weeks, or around all these different safety nets that we have in place. So to answer crops look great, Dan. Driving across. There's, on 88, actually, the route I take, the 100 miles, got quite a bit of hail damage. So there's some of those, you see those sections, and they still are just all tore up. So you just kind of hurts your heart when you see it, because it looks so good before the hail. But that was a small section. So,
Sure.
Outside of that, crops really good.
Yeah, and to your point, as we're coming into pollination and things like that, just can't emphasize enough to look at your individual operation, where you're at relative to what you feel like yields could be, and then factoring in all of the insurance piece, the government payments, everything, taking a look at different yield and price scenarios, because it's easy for somebody to write down, well, you're on a 10 or 15 cent corn rally, you should be selling something, but it's like, what does that mean? How's that actually going to move the needle for you? And that's that's where our focus is on a daily basis. So anybody with questions or anything like that, don't hesitate to reach out. Ben, how's things over in the East?
Much better after the weekend. Really nice rains across the northern portions of Indiana and Ohio, where we were struggling to get rain. So that was very welcome. One of the things that I'm keeping an eye on is wheat. I think that there's maybe a little bit of a building story of not being able to load boats out of Russia, and whether that's from a short crop and the growers holding on, or it's just a tug of war between buyers and sellers. It's starting to create a little bit of a bottleneck. U.S. wheat markets haven't really reacted yet, and we are at a point in the year where I think wheat becomes vulnerable to a short covering rally, and I think it bears keeping one eye on over the next couple of weeks. So, corn is probably at these prices going to find some sellers on rallies, going to find some buyers on dips. Without real severe weather, I think you're probably still at a, call it a 390 to 440 if we just take the top end off of where crops are at. So kind of in a no man's land here, in the middle of that range right now. So.
Very good. With that, Ryland, let's move over to livestock real quick. What's your thoughts there as we start the week?
Yeah, and still grinding to new high here on Friday in August. And we saw a little bit of steady to higher cash trade in the South. So, it just seems like the normal day-to-day is still relatively firm. We had mixed beef prices on Friday. It's up 27 in choice and down 235 in select. So it's still kind of this, it seems like packers are really trying to manage their margins here pretty well. So I think if they can get cattle cheaper, they'll get it. But as of right now, they really haven't been able to. So starting to see the managed money, come back in here, especially with all the news that you've thrown at the market. So it seems like there's just a big long in this market that's not really going down without a fight. Traded right down to support at the 10-day moving average and feeders. So once again, I think you just maybe see a little bit more caution this week than we've seen just from the length in the market, just because we've got the cattle inventory report coming up on Friday. So I think that could be a big kind of narrative changing factor. But I think overall, the focus is really going to be on that heifer retention, and if we can see some relief down the road from a supply standpoint, but it may just be a little bit too soon. So, kind of just watching some of the near-term factors right now. Don't expect any cash trade today or anything like that, but we'll see. On the hog side of things, managed money sold off a lot of their position pretty hard. They were big longs. They sold about 17,000 contracts and are still holding a near record position. And we are starting to see some of that cash weakness. On Friday, cash was down $5. So, I mean, I think at that rate, you know, we baked in a decent chunk of this weakness. So we'll see how the market reacts. But generally speaking, you got a better close on Friday over that 10 days. So it seems like the near-term technical momentum may be shifting, especially just because carcass is firm. So we'll see if we get any more follow through. But overall, it just seems that cash down, we're a little bit concerned that today could be a little bit on the weaker side.
Very good. Appreciate the update there. As I mentioned, we will have crop conditions out at 3:00 Central today. We'll take a look at those, talk about them in the evening commentary, and then certainly visit about that tomorrow morning on the War Room. Kind of a short and sweet version here this morning with not much going on. So with that, we'll wrap. We appreciate everybody that tunes in on a daily basis. If you wouldn't mind, throw us a like and certainly subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything to do so. It'll keep you up to speed on everything that's going on with AgYield. So again, thanks to everybody that supports the show. We're doing this live every day that the markets are open on X, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live, 8:15 Central Time. Appreciate the thoughts and comments here this morning, guys. It was a good show. Hope everybody has a good start to the week, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.
The War Room is proudly presented by AgYield. For over 50 years, the AgYield team has provided grain marketing and risk management solutions for growers across the country. Our veteran consultants harness cutting-edge technologies to pinpoint risk, optimize market performance, and protect your farm's profitability. Discover a new approach to farm revenue management at agyield.com.
Hey guys, Jack here. Be sure to support the show by hitting the like button, leaving us a comment, and subscribing to the channel for all the latest updates. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.